The Apple story valued at more than $3 billion. It designs and produces electronic equipment, software, and online services, such as the iPhone, iPad tablet, Mac personal computer, iPod portable media player, Apple Watch smartwatch and Apple TV digital media player. And the operating systems iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS and tvOS, the iTunes media browser, and the iWork suite. More than 408 company-owned stores in 9 countries. According to Fortune magazine, Apple was the flashiest company in the world between 2008 and 2012. In 2015, it became the most valuable company in the world according to the Brand Z Index by reaching 247 billion euros in value. On August 3, 2018, according to the Wall Street Journal, the company became the first company to achieve a market capitalization of $2 trillion. In 2020, its value was estimated at about $2.5 trillion. And as of January 3, 2022, it surpassed the $3 trillion mark. Its late founder Stephen Jobs, a visionary man, whose life was full of misfortune, but he did not know the word failure. Here in the history of success, we present the hard road that this company had. The history of Apple. Stephen Wozniak and Stephen Jobs met in 1971, when a mutual friend, Bill Fernandez, introduced Wozniak, who was 21 years old, to Jobs, then 15. Stephen Wozniak, who liked to be called Woz, had always had a great attraction to electronics in general, designing circuits on paper from a young age and then trying to optimize them as much as possible. Given his fondness for electronics, Woz would teach kids who liked the subject, such as Bill Fernandez, or Stephen Jobs himself. This would be the beginning of this trio, who were looking forward to an ostentatious future full of technology and wealth. After a long time of effort, dedication and discipline, selling all their stuff and with savings they designed Apple I. After the presentation of their computer at the Homebrew Computer Club and astonishing its participants, Stephen quickly saw the business opportunity, so he started promoting the computer among other computer enthusiasts of the Homebrew Computer Club and other digital electronics stores. Before long they began receiving small orders for computers they built themselves from handmade machines, eventually selling about 200 copies of their Apple I machine. On April 1, 1976, Apple Computer was founded through a contract signed by its 3 shareholders, Stephen Wozniak, Stephen Jobs and Ron Wayne, the latter a former co-worker of Jobs at Atari, and with just 10% of the new company. 12 days after the founding, Wayne sold his shares for $800 and eventually sold the original contract he had signed for $500. More friends joined them, but the Apple I's performance was limited, so they began to look for funding. Finally, Jobs met Mike Markula, who agreed to invest $250,000. About 200 units were sold at $666 per unit. But the success was such that they could not keep up with the demand. With the money earned from the sale of the Apple I, Apple could start thinking about a much more ambitious machine, the Apple II. For Wozniak, the Apple II was simply going to be the computer he would have wanted to build if he had not had the financial limitations he had with the Apple I. Stephen Jobs understood that the future did not lie in boards with components that users had to assemble and solder themselves, but in computers like the Sun, already assembled and ready for users to use and enjoy. Therefore, the Apple II, which had not yet gone on sale, was to incorporate the video output, keyboard and everything else it needed in a plastic case to make it easier to use. While Stephen Wozniak was the designer of all the logic and electronics of the Apple II, Stephen Jobs was the creator of the concept and vision for the future of Apple, while at the same time looking for a way to create a product that could satisfy all users, not just the most technical ones. Much of Apple's success was based on the fact that it was a computer made to appeal to both expert hackers and the more computer-literate public. Soon, the software base for the Apple II began to grow, making the computer more attractive to the rest of the public, especially when the first spreadsheet in history, VisiCalc, appeared on the market, which alone sold thousands of Apple II computers. While the Apple II was enjoying growing success, Apple was already working on its successors. Lisa was to be an evolution of the Apple II, a transitional machine before Lisa and Macintosh, which would be a new class of computers. Although sales of the Apple II were stronger than ever, Apple thought that they would start to slow down soon, so it would be necessary to present its successor as quickly as possible. The computer was finally introduced in May 1980 under the name Apple III. A few months later, in November 1981, Apple released a new version of the Apple III, which corrected all the major problems of the initial version. An Apple III Plus was even released in 1983. But its early problems discouraged buyers and were the reason that the Apple III became Apple's first major commercial failure. At the failure of the Apple III, Apple still had two models to develop, Lisa and Macintosh. Apple's big bet was Lisa, which was to become the new generation of Apple computers and with which it also intended to attack the business market that had been denied with the Apple III and that was being covered by the IBM PC, while the Macintosh was a project initiated by Jeff Raskin to build a small, very economical and easy-to-use computer designed for the home market. Despite the economic successes and worldwide expansion of the company, 1981 was a rather tough year for Apple. Apart from the problems of the Apple III, in February of this year, it was decided to purge the workforce, so it authorized the dismissal of 40 Apple workers. In total, the company exceeded 1,000 employees. The following month, the purge this time was the president himself, Scott, being replaced by Mike Markkula and Stephen Jobs assuming the position of director. Mike Markkula relieved Stephen Jobs from the Lisa team, accusing him of mismanaging the team and the project would be delayed by these changes. Jobs went to work on the Macintosh project. The Lisa finally came out in early 1983, and became the first personal computer with a graphical interface and mouse. In spite of its revolutionary character, Lisa sold very badly, mainly due to its high price. After all the events at Apple, Scully and the executive ended up firing Stephen Jobs, something that was a great mistake for the company, leading it to its temporary decline. John Scully would later be fired as well. Scully acknowledged that, although it is not possible to know what would have happened if there had not been that confrontation with Stephen Jobs, no one knows if the course would have been much. Stephen Jobs' return to Apple came when the company was in decline, so he was determined to regain control of it. Some of Jobs' first actions in his new position were to sign an agreement with Microsoft. As the years went by, bringing in the highest value devices. By December 2009, Stephen Jobs was elected CEO of the Year by Harvard Business Review for increasing Apple's stock market value by $150 billion in the last 12 years. Some time later he resigned due to his illness. October 5, 2011, at the age of 56, Stephen Jobs dies. Really, that day the world felt a great loss. Here are some of the personal statements of great businessmen after the death of Stephen Jobs. Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. I am truly saddened by the death of Stephen Jobs. Melinda and I offer our sincere condolences to his family and friends, and to everyone Stephen has touched through his work. Stephen and I met almost 30 years ago, and have been colleagues, competitors and friends for more than half of our lives. Rarely in the world do you see someone who has had such a profound impact as Stephen has had and whose effects will be felt for many generations to come. For those of us lucky enough to have worked with him, it has been an incredibly brilliant honor. I will miss you terribly, Stephen. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. Stephen, thank you for being a mentor and a friend. Thank you for teaching us that what you generate can change the world. I will miss you. Stephen Wozniak, co-founder of Apple. People sometimes have goals in life. Stephen Jobs surpassed everyone he set for himself. Thank you so much for everything, Stephen Jobs. Thank you so much for watching.